Thanks again, everybody, for joining and giving your time. We know it's super valuable and we appreciate it. We're joined today by a team of experts from PatchMyPC. It really is an honor to be able to host with the speakers that are presenting today from our customer engineering team. They are all experts in their field with ConfigMgr and Intune. They're diving down rabbit holes every day relentlessly for customers, sharing tips and tricks. We see a lot of stuff in customer engineering, problems coming into support, helping customers use our products, understanding how third-party vendors build their applications and how to deploy them successfully. The customer engineering team really does cover a vast array of stuff, and the knowledge is incredible. So you're in for a real treat today. With us today from the customer engineering team, we have Anthony, Melissa, Michiel, Michael, Liviu, Keeran, Hugo. We won't do favorite pet names and colors and stuff, but it's so awesome to be here with you. And any webinar wouldn't work if we didn't have people supporting it, answering questions. So please do ask your questions as we go through. We are supported today by Casey, Ada, and Christy as our moderators. So thank you as well for joining. On today's agenda, we are going to these are the common things that we see and support customers asking questions. So we thought we'd pick the top 7 topics and just go through them today. If you have used these features before and you want a bit more of a deep dive, you're in the right place. If you haven't used them before, you're in the right place. If you have any questions around any of these features or any other feature within PatchMyPC Cloud or PatchMyPC Publisher or Advanced Insights, you're in the right place. So we're going to kick the webinar off with Anthony talking about how to collect logs for support. We're going to move on to Melissa to look at some awesome customizations in PatchMyPC Cloud, pre and post scripts and that kind of cool stuff. And Michiel is going to take us through conflicting processes feature, which is an amazing feature. We're going to talk through that, followed by Hugo looking at branding. Branding marries up very well to the conflicting processes feature we have. So that's going to be cool. Michael is going to be showing us custom apps. That's an amazing feature in PatchMyPC Cloud to deploy your own line of business applications to ConfigMgr and Intune. So really looking forward to that. And Michael, are you doing PSADT flavor to that as well today? Yes, awesome. Then update rings, classic feature. Really powerful feature, sometimes misunderstood, but it shouldn't be. So Liviu is an expert on update rings. He'll take us through that and how to use those effectively in PatchMyPC Cloud to deploy your updates in a phased manner. And certainly, by all means, not least, but not last, Keeran is going to be taking us through Advanced Insights dashboards, maybe the top 10 if we got time, maybe the top 7 if we haven't. Just so if you're using Advanced Insights or Patch Insights today, you're going to learn some stuff. If you're using Intune, Keeran's probably going to learn some stuff, help us learn some stuff from Intune as well. So really packed agenda, really looking forward to it. We're going to leave room for Q&A between each session, just briefly. Like we'll probably answer a couple of questions if we can. We'll probably leave more room for Q&A at the back of the webinar. But yeah, let's get cracking into it. So up first, jumping in the labs. Anthony, you want to help us understand a bit more how customers can collect logs to send to support if they do have issues with third-party apps?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Ben. So my name is Anthony. I'm an engineer here at PatchMyPC. And today on the webinar, when my screen shares, can everyone see my screen okay? Depending on kind of what type of customer you are of ours, depending on what solution of ours you use, or whether you're SCCM or Intune, may depend on which type of logs you need to collect, should you feel the need to raise a support case for any reason. Now, we'll start on kind of the PatchMyPC Publisher, the solution that we kind of have always had, and we're moving more towards cloud now, but there's still a lot of customers that use the publisher. So for SCCM and Intune integration, should you have any client side, any server side issues, issues with publishing apps and updates, getting them to push to SCCM or Intune, we will ask you to hit this collect logs button here. This will wrap up a load of logs in a zip folder, and we will ask you to send over that particular zip folder. It will gather things like the settings.xml, the download history, the publishing history of your publisher, and most importantly, the patchmypc.log. And this is our log. So this is kind of our log of what's being packaged, what's being downloaded, and where it's being pushed to. So 9 times out of 10, if it's an issue on the server, it will be highlighted in this log. For those SCCM customers, we will also ask for the WSync manager and WCM logs as well, just in case it is an issue with the updates getting from WSUS into the SCCM console. Now, heading over to the cloud solution, this is slightly different. So we don't really have any kind of cloud side logs here. But if you do notice any issues in the cloud, we do ask you to enable your dev tools in your browser and collect a HAR file. And how that works is if you have any issues, as an example, we had an issue the other day where the icons weren't appearing in the discovery tool. We'd get the customer to head into here, enable the dev tools with function F12, head to the network section, and then we would get them to hit record here. We would then get them to run the discovery tool or whichever function it is that they're having issues with. I can't run that in there. However, we'll just click to a different tab just to show you it does collect that information. We'll then, once the error reoccurs, ask you to stop recording and export the HAR file and send that over for our dev team to take a look into. Now, heading over to the client side logs. Now, depending on whether it's an SCCM enrolled machine or an Intune enrolled machine, will depend on which logs we ask you to collect. Now, for our Intune end user devices, we do have a few folders that are relevant. So we will ask for the program data Microsoft Intune Management Extension logs folder, mainly the IME log there. We will also ask for the entire PatchMyPC Intune logs folder. This will carry our PatchMyPC scriptrunner.log, which if I open this, it details every single step of an app or an update installation. And you will see for any configurations you add during a deployment as well, whether that's a right-click customization option or a config item in step 2 of the cloud portal, they are all differentiated. They are all sort of put in here as separate items. Now, we do have lots and lots of different issues. Some common ones being that, an error code has popped up because an end user has decided to delay an installation rather than allowing it to install, with the conflicting processes pop up, which one of my colleagues will discuss later. However, these give us a really good idea as to what's going wrong. On the odd chance it throws back a 1603 or a really generic error code and doesn't tell us much at all, we will also ask for this PatchMyPC install logs folder, which for MSI-based applications, it will just pop a log in here for the installer itself, which 9 times out of 10 gives us a really good idea as to what's going wrong. Now, there is 2 ways of enabling these additional logs. In the cloud portal, they are enabled as standard, but for those customers still using our PatchMyPC publisher, if I can open it up, there we go. It does require you to enable it as a different option. Now, personally, as an engineer here, to make our lives easier when we're troubleshooting customer issues, I ask everyone to enable this at the top level. So you enable managed installation logging. If it's for Intune, it will be under the Intune logs path. For SCCM enrolled machines, it will be under C Windows CCM logs, and there'll be a folder called PatchMyPC install logs, which I can show you right here. We will ask for this along with a number of other SCCM specific logs. However, we will also ask for our PatchMyPC scriptrunner.log, which gets populated into here as well. Now, you don't ever have to worry about these logs getting too large or the folders getting too large. Under the Advanced tab, you can scroll down. Or has that option moved? There we go. We've got the scriptrunner customization section. So in here, you can determine how long those logs remain for. And you can specify anything from 0 to I think it's 300 days or 99 days maybe. Let's have a look. You can specify them to be there for a very long time, basically. But a lot of our customers leave that as the standard 28 days, just because there shouldn't really be any issues being raised more than 28 days after an installation attempt. If you do have any issues with server side, any server-side issues, sorry, you can set your login level from information to debug, and that will give us more information in the Patch My PC log if ever we need it.
And if you want to include these logs when you initially submit your support case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great call out. We look at these logs, you know, I'm surprised they're not burned into our eyeballs. Like we can glance through it and spot a problem really quickly. So that's a great call out, Michael. If you're going to log a support case, then you can send a log straight away. We'll definitely be able to get the case resolved much quicker. Saves a couple of emails backwards and forwards. Top tip.
There was a question regarding Patch My PC Cloud Portal logs and where they live on the client side. They live under program data directory. There are two folders in there, Patch My PC Intune logs and Patch My PC install logs. Currently, within the Cloud Portal, there is no way to customize the log folder location on the client side. It's always going to be there. The logging is always going to be enabled, which helps us when we need to troubleshoot the issues. And sometimes customers ask if they can change the location of the log folder. From experience, they usually want to do that because they want to switch the login directly to the IME logs folder, so they can remotely collect the logs from devices using the Intune functionality. We plan to implement such functionality within the Cloud Portal at some point, but at the moment, there is no high demand for it. If people would like to have such functionality, in the Q&A section, there is an idea with an answer with a reply from me. Just upload that user voice idea, and the more upvotes it receives, the better.
Awesome. Thank you, Liviu. Anthony, that's amazing. Thank you. I'm not going to push it on because we've got a tight agenda and time sticking, but that's amazing. Logs are super important. Amazing. So up next, Melissa, you're going to be talking to us about customizations within Patch My PC Cloud. I kind of know what you're going to be doing, so I'm really excited about this one.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, everybody. So what I was hoping to show you today is just some of the extra customizations that can really make your deployments powerful and take it to the next level. So let's do something like 7-zip. I commonly see you may work with 7-zip. You may have multiple installations of 7-zip on your devices. And so you want to essentially consolidate to one version and installation of 7-zip. So how might you do that? So you see here on my screen, I'm actually about to deploy 7-zip out. So if I hit the deploy button here, I'm going to select, so what I want to support in my environment is going to be the 64-bit MSI. So that's what I've selected here. Going to the configuration screen, on the left-hand side, you see all of the different tools that you have at your disposal to really customize this deployment for yourself. What I want to focus on today and really get into is scripts, pre and post scripts. So if I open up the scripts section here, this opens up the option for me to create pre-installation and post-installation scripts, which is what I want to focus on today. So in this scenario, we're trying to find all of the installed iterations of 7-zip on your device. So maybe you have the older version of an exe installation. Maybe you also have another MSI installation, creating duplicate installations of 7-zip. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a pre-installation script, and we do have a generic uninstall script that I'm going to show you and kind of customize today. Going into that, I've just launched the pre-installation script window here. So you see, this is actually a text editor. So you could just type up I could type up a script right now. You can import a script. There's a lot of options here. Under the script format, we support .bat, .cmd, PowerShell, and VB scripts. So I'm going to use a PowerShell script today. I'm going to go ahead and import that. So I have my generic uninstall-software-ps1. Let me go ahead and import that. So there's two ways that I can customize this to remove 7-zip. If I scroll down to line 139, all right, down here, I could actually type in my parameters that I want to use. But we also have the ability to add arguments and pass them directly into these scripts. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So what I need to do is pass the display name argument. And then I want that display name to show 7-zip. So what this is going to do is it's going to go through the device prior to installing the 64-bit MSI of 7-zip, and it's going to loop through and remove any installation of 7-zip that it finds. And how I'm going to do that is also adding this uninstall all parameter here as well, or argument. So now that I have that set up, I can hit save, but before I hit save, I want to show 2 additional options here. So you'll see these checkboxes below. Those checkboxes are going to be, one of them is don't attempt the software update if the pre-script returns an exit code other than 0 or 3010. So what that means is if I select this, and for some reason my installation or my script fails, so I have this set as a pre-installation script, so this script is going to run before it even attempts to install 7-zip. Now, if I have an exit code of anything other than 0 or 3010, which it may fail for some reason, I can actually fail out the entire installation at that point. So that takes that additional step further and just makes sure you don't run into additional issues trying to install software if the pre-script doesn't work. The second checkbox here is run the pre-update script before performing any auto close or skip process checks. If I don't have this checked, it's actually going to start the whole process, including the pre-installation script, after any checks to make sure the processes for 7-zip are running on the device. If I check this box, I can essentially skip that and it can run regardless of what's running on the device. It won't do any checks. So I'll go ahead and leave both of those blank for now. So let's go ahead and hit save. All right, so now I am ready to assign this out. But the other thing I wanted to go over, let's go ahead and get this set up. I wanted to go over extra files as well. So I do have an example of extra files with Notepad++. Let's just get this assigned out real quick and we'll go ahead and save that and deploy that. So you'll see I have a couple of options here. I wanted to show you a couple of different ways that you can really leverage some of the customizations in these deployments. So let me hit edit, go back to the configurations. So I can take this a step further. I just showed a pre-installation script that's uninstalling all iterations of 7-zip that might be on the device. The second option that I'm going to go through is how to leverage a pre-script or a post-script with also using extra files. So I have my extra files here. This is a deployment of Notepad++. I've uploaded my compare plus zip file, which is the plugin that I want to add automatically during that installation. And then what I've added here is a post-installation script. This is going to take, and it references that extra file, and it's going to take that extra file, expand it onto the program files for Notepad++ in the correct plugins folder, create the folder as well. And then now I have that plugin already installed after Notepad++ installs. So this is why I've set this as a pre-script as an example here. So we'll go ahead and cancel out. But the other tools that you have here, you'll see you're pretty familiar. You might be pretty familiar with these. The other one, we've gone through a lot here. So we've gone to the pre and post installation scripts, extra files that you can also reference in those pre and post installation scripts. But you also have additional parameters that you can add into the install command line. And you also have the ability to leverage any other tools here as well. I think that's pretty much everything that I have to show you. Hopefully that's been helpful. Let me know if anyone has any additional questions or anything like that.
That's amazing. Thank you, Melissa. It's such a powerful feature, pre and post scripts. And that's a great example, like trying to conform to a single variant of software across your computers. Really powerful. I've seen customers use that feature for maybe when they install a third-party update from a vendor, it squashes some customizations on the device. So the pre-script could be used in that scenario to copy out customization first from the registry, put it on disk. The update then gets installed by PatchMyPC, and then you can have a postscript that copies that customization back into the registry again. It's such a versatile tool just to do those tweaks to get successful installs.
There was a good question on there, by the way. What additional files do we take as scripts? If we can just show that through the drop down again.
So script formats there. So you have your .bat, .cmd, PowerShell, and VBScript.
Is anybody still deploying VB scripts? Give us a thumbs up. Somebody's got to do a thumbs up, even if they're not.
It's still valid in Config Manager.
I think there was a question as well, like what are the file types that we support as additional files too? So I think that was in the chat, I believe.
Yeah, I think Liviu, you answered it right. We support any file types as extra files.
Melissa, thank you. Michiel, over to you. Conflicting processes. This is an amazing feature. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Michiel here. I'm one of the customer engineers at PatchMyPC, and I will be, just like Melissa, I will be talking about a specific customization for our applications in our application catalog, and that is conflicting processes. So the conflicting processes feature allows you to specify what needs to happen if a conflicting process is running at the time we're trying to install an update for an application. Right? And as many of you will probably know, many applications you won't be able to update while they are running. Right? They're keeping files in use. You won't be able to update those files because they are being used. And so that update installation will fail. And of course, that's not the point. We want that update installation to succeed. So to demonstrate that, just like Melissa, I'm going to use everyone's favorite example, which is Notepad++ right here in the application catalog. And deploy that, or at least go through the deployments until I reach that particular setting. And it is right there in the configurations tab. We find the conflicting processes configuration. And so this allows you to specify which processes are potentially conflicting. So in other words, which processes do we need to check before we start, before we attempt to install the installation, the application update. And also what needs to happen when a conflicting process is found. And this is pretty much pre-configured in our catalog for many applications already. So there really isn't a lot for you to do except understand how this happens and how you can change the default behavior. So the first thing is, of course, for each and every application, we need to specify what the potentially conflicting processes are. And that's what this button over here does. If I click that, it will show me that for Notepad++, obviously, a conflicting process could be notepad++.exe, right, which is the executable for the application itself. So if that is running, that is a conflicting process, and that will prevent an update for this application from installing successfully. If you like, you can remove that, right? We don't recommend it. These are basically the recommended conflicting processes, so I wouldn't recommend removing those. But you can, and that might be a bit more useful, you can add your own conflicting processes to this list, right? It can be a list. It doesn't have to be just one executable. It can be multiple. And there are certain relatively notorious applications that have a long list of potentially conflicting processes. OBS Studio, anyone? So that's the conflicting processes. And then you need to specify, okay, what needs to happen when a conflicting process is running at the time we're trying to install the update, right? For instance, we could say, well, we're going to go ahead and perform that installation anyway. Basically, we're just going to try and install the application update while it is still running. And for some applications, that works. Chrome, for instance, is a good example. Google Chrome, you can update it successfully while it is running. It basically gets updated in the background, and next time the user closes and reopens Google Chrome, they will be running the latest version. So for some applications that works, but definitely not for all, and it doesn't work for Notepad++. So we'll need to make a different choice there. So what we could do is we could auto close that conflicting process, right? So in this case, that would mean automatically closing Notepad++. Now, if this is a background process that can be closed without any user impact, that's probably fine. But if it's a user application, something that somebody is actually using at the time, yeah, they probably won't be very happy that suddenly the application disappears under their fingers and they're no longer able to use it. So that is an option, but yeah, for most cases, probably not the best option. There's also the third one that says skip the installation when a conflicting process is in use. So basically, okay, there's a conflicting process running. We're going to skip the installation and we're going to retry the update next time. which typically is after 24 hours. That's the refresh schedule for the Intune management extension that takes care of installing these apps and updates. And so this is actually a very common issue that we see in support. Customers asking us why a certain update doesn't get installed. They deployed an update, they know it's applicable, but it doesn't get installed for some reason. And then when we start troubleshooting, we notice that, okay, you set this conflicting process policy to skip the installation when a conflicting process is in use. And so that means that it will be skipped, it will not be installed, and it's going to retry next time. And of course, next time, if that executable, that conflicting process is still running, it's going to be skipped again. And basically that means the application will never get updated. So that is something to be aware of. Personally, in my opinion, the best one, the most flexible one is to notify the user to close that application, right? So basically give the user the choice, okay, what needs to happen now? We need to update Notepad++. It's currently running. What do you want us to do? Do you want to close the app and allow us to perform the update installation? Or do you want to postpone, defer the installation so that we can try next time? You can give them some options. And the options that are available to them, you can set those using the settings button that you see over here. So if I click that, I then can see, okay, what needs to happen when we start notifying that user. For instance, there's a timeout that you can set. So by default, that notification times out after 5 minutes. And so when that happens, you also need to specify what needs to happen. So if the timeout expires and no action is taken by the end user, right? They're either ignoring that or they haven't seen it for whatever reason. What needs to happen then? By default, as you can see here, the installation is then deferred on behalf of the user. So we skip the installation at that time. But you can change that and you can set that to actually close the application and perform the update, right? It's a bit risky, but you can do that. About user deferral, you can specify the option that says do not allow user deferral. But most of the time you won't be doing that because you want to allow the user to have some influence over this process. So in most cases, you're going to actually allow the user to defer that installation, maybe indefinitely, right? Again, probably not the best idea because that could cause the update installation to be postponed indefinitely, so it will never be installed. So usually you're going to allow that up to an X number of times. And of course, you can specify that X number of times in there as well. The last option that you have here is you can also say, well, first we are going to try the installation in the background. And if that doesn't succeed, and maybe let's say for 3 days we've been trying and it still doesn't update because there's a conflicting process that's running, then you can notify the user and say, hey, we've been trying to update this, but it doesn't work. So could you please now allow us either to install or maybe postpone it again? So that's the first notification displayed option that you see over there. Last but not least, there is another option here that says prevent the application from being opened while it is updating. Now, that might seem ideal, right? This basically prevents the user from reopening the application while it is being updated. So yeah, it sounds ideal. Let's enable that for each and every application. However, as you can see here, there's a little warning. Maybe I can zoom in on that a little bit. We do warn against that because if the setting is enabled and the installation does get interrupted for whatever reason, that block, basically, that mechanism that prevents the user from opening that application remains in place. And so it means that even though the update failed to install, the user will still be unable to start that application. So that is something to be very careful about. We don't recommend enabling this, at least not unless it's absolutely necessary. There's also some examples of where the update is going to fail if you enable this because it needs to run that executable as part of the update. So that also causes problems. So yeah, basically we don't recommend using that option unless it is strictly necessary, unless there is no other way around that. So yeah, that's conflicting processes, and you can use this to your advantage to make sure that users still have some influence over the whole update process. But on the other hand, also make sure that if they are unable to continuously postpone update installations, right, by allowing them to defer installation for a number of times, but after that you're going to say, well, now you no longer have the choice. Now we are going to force this installation and close that conflicting application for you. I think that's basically all. Am I missing anything? Anyone? Or any questions perhaps about this?
No, that's amazing. Really great feature. There was a question that just came up in chat. Like if you do click the button that we say don't click, and we should rename to don't click. If that entry remains in the registry and prevents the application from opening, we do have a KB article that'll give you a script snippet to clear that out again. There's an image file execution options registry value that just needs to be cleared. Has anybody got that to share in the chat? Maybe that'd be cool.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the script runner, so basically the wrapper that we use to install applications, the next time the script runner runs, so basically the next time an application or an update gets installed, it also checks if any of these registry values are remaining and cleans them up as well. But yeah, you know, that can take up to who knows what amount of time. So you can do it manually as well.
Awesome. Yeah, if anybody using ConfigMgr, do you remember this? Was it the system behavior tab at the top left on the application that did the same thing? What was that tab called? 10 points to somebody who remembers.
Yeah, in ConfigMgr you have the I remember what you're talking about, and that's actually I can't remember the name of the tab either, but that does not prevent people from reopening that application. It just checks for the exe if it's running and then notifies them that it needs to be closed first, but it doesn't block them from reopening it. Install behavior, that's it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's the one.
Awesome, very powerful feature. Thank you, Michiel. Very good overview. It kind of leads on nicely hand in hand to the next agenda item that Hugo is going to take us through. Hugo, you're going to talk to us about branding.
Sure, appreciate the continuation there, Ben. So as Michiel mentioned very well, so that notification, you can actually customize what that will look like for your employees. And to do that, super simple. You just click here on the settings and you have an option here called branding. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. So just under settings and then under the branding, right? So if you click here, there we go. Now, I haven't done this, so you can see the exact process. I don't see anything just quite yet. So we need to click on the button on the top right that says Add Branding. And if I do that, we get a little preview of what the users will actually see. So as you can see here, this will be the default or the template notification that they will see, right? And as you can see, there's already a pre-translated text and also a default image. But you're more than welcome to customize this to your own liking, okay? All you need to do is to give it a friendly name here. And this is how it's going to show up within your Intune tenant. Okay, so we're going to call it branding app. Then on the logo, you can upload your own company's logo. So I'm just going to use an example image here. There we go, Patch My PC. And as for the text, we already have 11 pre-translations, right? So we have 11 languages that we have already chosen the text for you. But you can click on the pencil on any of them, and you can modify the text as you see fit, right? So your message does come across with your own tone, right? And with your own intent. And what this will do, by the way, since we do have 11 languages here, is depending on the language that the employee's device is running on, it will show that language specifically for the user. So depending on the system locale, pretty much, they will see the language being displayed, which is quite useful if you have employees that speak multiple languages, right? And some may have Windows in German, say some might have it in French, in English, and that they will all see the message according to their own language. However, by the way, you don't just have to do this. You also need to choose where you would like this notification to be shown, right? Because you might only want to target a specific set of users, not everyone. So you then need to click here on the top tab where we see assignments. And you then need to target out where you want this to be shown. And you have a few choices. If you want to push this out to everyone, you can target either all devices or all users. The main difference between the two is that all devices will only focus on the primary user of the device, whilst all users will apply it across the board, right? Or you can then scope this down to individual groups that you have present in your environment already. So you don't have to configure these again, right? Whatever you already have within your Intune environment. So if I quickly come into my groups here, you can see that I have the exact same 4 groups that are being shown there, right? So we can see the group 01, 02, 03, and the group OP as well, right? And these are the exact groups that we can also see in the Patch My PC portal. So in my case, I want to target this out to everyone. So I'm just going to go with all users. I'm going to click Save. And once we click Save here, this will take just a few moments, and we're going to create a Win32 app within the Intune tenant, right? So this will take, again, just a few moments. And while we wait for that, just for you to know, this feature is totally optional, okay? Only if you want to customize the notification and the branding to your liking. If you don't want to push this app out, you don't have to do that, okay? You can always rely on the default application that I've showed you in the beginning, right? That basically just shows this stock image and the default text that we have here on the screen, right? So let's go back here again to the branding. It's still in progress, but we should see it actually if I just come quickly here into the apps. There we go. We can see our branding app already created, and this will then just assign it, in my case, to all users, because that was the user group that I target this out to. Now, if in the future you want to remove this, okay, all you have to do is actually delete it here, first and foremost, so it doesn't get created again, right? But on the devices that already have it, just deleting it will not actually remove it entirely, right? So in addition to deleting it here, so it doesn't get created again, you also need to click on uninstall brandings. And this will basically create a uninstall branding app, which will remove every single branding app that you have out there within your targeted devices, right? So very easy also to do. You would just choose a name. So let's say remove branding. You would then also target out, in this case, let's say all users again, right? And this will then proceed with the uninstallation of the branding notification, right? So they don't have that anymore within their screens. And if you want to make any changes to the existing one, very easy. You just click here on the 3 dots, click on edit, and then you can make the changes to the existing branding that you have. If, for example, you have employees that speak one language that we don't have yet pre-translated, you're welcome to always click here on this button that says add language, right? So you can see here on the screen. And then you can add your own language, right? So if you click here, you can just choose from the list, right? And when you choose a new list, okay, so let's go with Bulgarian, for example, you need to fill out every single field, right? So on the install context, also on the uninstall context as well, and also on the update. Because otherwise, the save button will not be enabled. You cannot just fill out the install, right? You need to do all 3. So install, uninstall, and update. And we also give you some variables that you can use. For example, the product name, which basically can shift depending on which application is actually being, needs to be closed or you want to notify. So you don't need to hard code or to write that directly. You can just use these variables that we offer you with. And yeah, that's the branding app. And this is how it links to notification that Michiel was just talking about before me. And yeah, I think that's all for me. Any questions from anyone?
If I may, this is all brilliant stuff what Hugo shared, but I'd like to add 2 little quirks, 2 little caveats to the branding feature. When you deploy a branding, it essentially copies the branding files to C program data, and there's going to be a Patch My PC folder. Now, if you make changes to a branding app, if a device already got the branding files, it's not going to get the changes, right? Because the detection criteria is already going to be met. So any changes you implement are only going to apply to new devices that are going to get the branding. The second tiny little quirk I'd like to mention is if you have multiple brandings, say branding A and then branding B, and you target a device, the same device A, let's say, with both brandings, the device is going to get the branding files of whichever branding installs latest. So if branding A is the second one to install, then those are the branding files the device is going to have. Branding B is the second one to install, then those are the files the device is going to have. Just something to keep in mind, right? If you target the same device with multiple brands.
We have all of this documented as these ports that Liviu also mentioned. Okay, they are in our documentation, which are available here on the resources tab within Zoom. And I can also just paste it in the chat if you guys want to have that as a resource.
Amazing. Great spotlight there, Hugo. Liviu, thanks for the extra context at the end there as well. That's very useful. Just keeping an eye on time. I want to be respectful of our attendees' time as well. So moving on to the next agenda item, we have Michiel. He's got some magic up his sleeve.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a little bit of custom apps here. So if you're unfamiliar, we do have a feature in the portal here to create your own custom applications. This couple use cases for this could be it's a product that we don't have in our catalog yet, which we still encourage you to head over to our ideas page, request that application. But you could also have a use for maybe deploying a specific version of an application that's in our catalog. With Patch My PC, you can only deploy the latest version. This could be a good way to deploy specific versions. So I'm going to start off real quick. And when you're in your app catalog here, up in the top right, there's an Add App button here. And when you're in this wizard here, there's basically two tabs that we want to fill out information, right? There's general information here. This is going to be what the application looks like in the app catalog within the portal. And in the configuration here, this is going to be what the application looks like within the add remove program section of the registry and how we do detection by default. So I'm going to start off by doing this with an MSI. And we're looking for you to upload either an EXE or an MSI as a primary install file. I'm going to start off doing this with an MSI on our ROI tool here. And the nice thing about the MSIs is they do have that database in there, a lot of good information. And you'll notice here, we're able to pull out that info and put it into the boxes here for you. We can even do the app icon should that exist in there as well. So the MSI is really quick to get in here. You'll notice it pulled the version number and apps and features name. And ooh, there's some uninstall command section here. Maybe I'll touch on that a little bit later here. That's in public preview currently. But yeah, once you have this info here, if you haven't deployed a custom app in a while, the detection rule tab is actually a little bit newer. So by default, what we'll do is dynamically create a PowerShell script based off the information on this configuration tab. And this is what we're going to look for on detecting the application on the machine. But something that's newer is you can actually drop down to use a custom here. Now you do get this warning. Once you do a custom one, you can't deploy this application through the publisher. You can only deploy it directly to Intune through the cloud portal here. But this does give you a little more flexibility when deploying through Intune should your application not be writing to the registry in a standard way. We all know vendors follow all the standards to make it easy, but sometimes you have to manually do this. So you can come in here, point this to a file, set the version number accordingly, stuff like that. I'm just going to leave it on the default here and hit create. Yeah, so at this point, we're uploading the custom app to your portal here. And what I can do here, if you're unfamiliar, you can hit this filters button here in your app catalog. And you can switch down to your tenant here. So my tenant's called Michael's tenant. So I'm going to select that. And these are all the custom apps that I have uploaded in here. And you can see that return on investment tool one here. And so this app just sits right alongside all your other apps. And from here, you can deploy it just like any other app in here. And this kind of leads me to another advantage to creating a custom app. I know you all know how to package up applications, push them to Intune. But one of the advantages of doing it through Patch My PC is you'll see you now gain all the configurations that everyone prior to me just spoke about. You have the ability to run the pre-post scripts, modify parameters depending on it. And so you gain all this functionality again that Patch My PC gives you. So that's a really good advantage here. And so, yeah, you can just come in here, do your normal assignments, do update rings that Liviu is going to talk about here in a little bit, and deploy your custom app out. And then one thing I'll touch on here as well, I'm going to go jump back here to all my custom apps. We also make it pretty easy to jump to a newer version of the application. So like right here, I've got the older version of Greenshot, and I want to deploy the new version now. But when you click on the application, you'll notice here in the bottom right, you can actually do an add version here. And so what you'll notice is we're basically going through a smaller subset of that initial wizard when creating the custom app. And so what I can do is I can come in here, select the newer version. That'll get uploaded. And then basically we just need to confirm the version number here for this. So I've got this pasted here. And this is also a good example of why why you might need to use a wildcard in this apps and features name. So Greenshot is an application that in the display name within the registry, it has the version number in it. Well, if we want to properly detect that in future versions, we need to add a wildcard for this one. So this is a good example for this. Yeah, adding that percentage sign as a wildcard, it's going to detect any version in the future there. So I just need to make sure the version's correct there. And then detection rules. Since I have it on the default Patch My PC, I don't need to edit anything. But if you were using custom ones and you had a version number in here as well, that's why we have this tab on showing up on a new version, so you can edit that as well. And then all I have to do is hit save. And then yeah, now I have a newer version in here. You'll see it's been updated to the 1.3. Now at this point, you actually don't need to do anything. You can just let the normal sync schedule run, and we're going to treat your custom application just like any of our apps in the catalog. So we're going to see if you've uploaded a new version, and if so, we're going to take action on that during that sync schedule. But you also can override that manually if you want, sync it right away and get that going. Now, one thing I wanted to show too was let me go to edit this custom app here, is that we did recently add in public preview is the ability to append additional silent uninstall parameters. So currently right now, if you run an uninstallation of your custom app, basically we look into the registry for two entries. One's a quiet uninstall, and the other is the uninstall string. And so as an example here, I have a really old version of 7-zip in here. Oh, let me zoom in here. And of course, this isn't working right now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you'll notice right here, this version of 7-zip only has the uninstall string. So right now, if the custom app is attempted to be uninstalled, it's just going to execute this. Depending on if you're coming from ConfigMgr or Intune, it may actually just it's not going to work at all. You may just receive an error. Well, what this allows you to do now is you can append that /s onto the uninstall of this process here, and you're now going to get that silent installation for this application. So yeah, this is a really nice feature. And in the future here, you'll see it's grayed out currently. We do hope to be able to just do a full custom uninstallation command as well. So really welcomed feature. I know a lot of customers are doing some postscripts to modify this in the registry themselves to do that. So hopefully this allows you to not have to do those kind of manual workarounds anymore. Okay, and then as Ben hinted to at the beginning, kind of wanted to cover what you need to do to create a custom app that is a PowerShell app deploy toolkit package. So let me move my browser over here. So same thing, if I start going through the custom apps wizard here, over on the right here, I've got this PSADT package here. And basically all this is doing is just deploying Notepad++. But you'll notice like the template here, there's a lot of files and folders. So we get asked a lot like, okay, well, where do I put these files exactly? And then what command line do I use to create a custom app? So for that main primary installation file, what you're going to want to do is drag over that invoke app deploy toolkit exe. Now I am showing PSADT4, basically the same principles I'm about to talk about work for 3 as well, if you still have those packages. So that's going to be your main app file. Now, what you would want to do at this point is in the extra file section here is do add folder. You'd want to select all these folders in the template and add files and do all that. One thing I like to do is you can actually just select the main exe file. And then depending on what OS is going to look a little different, there's an invert selection here option, typically in the bar here. I like to hit that. And you'll notice my selection now has switched over to everything except that one that I selected. And then from here, you can actually drag these over and you can move them over to either the add files or add folder section. And it's actually going to parse out what's a folder and then what's an individual file as well. So it's kind of just a shortcut to be able to upload all those folders and files in one go. So at this point, we have the whole PSADT package that's going to be uploaded here. So since we're working with an exe here, we're not going to be able to parse all this out of the install. So I have my information ready to go here. So I'm creating a notepad++. I'm going to call this a demo, and I'm just going to call it PSADT 4.0. All right. And I think I got my app icon in here. We'll put PSADT rocks as our description here. Make sure that shows up. Okay, and then over on the configuration side, most of this is pretty normal here. Now, we want to make sure that the apps and features name here, although we're doing a PSADT package, we're installing Notepad++. We want to make sure we're referencing that application here for that. But for the silent install parameters now, our primary install file is that invoke app deploy toolkit exe, right? So we want to make sure you have to put some information here in the silent install parameters. So what I typically do is just add this command over here that I've got. Now, when you call that exe, you actually have these switches that you can add, and you can swap out the deployment type or deploy mode. Now, install for deployment type and interactive for deploy mode, those are the default values when you just execute the exe itself. So basically, what we're doing here is just going to be what would have default ran anyway. So yeah, you want to put those there. And then I'll just add a language here. And then you can add any conflicting processes as well here if you're going to leverage the conflicting process from us instead of PSADT. And then, yeah, select your detection rule like normal and then hit create. And then, yeah, that's how you package up a PSADT as a custom app. And I'll just throw a quick shout out here. This currently works with 4.1 RC2 as well. I know people are starting to use 4.1 for that, not needing to use service UI anymore. So yeah, big shout out to the PSADT team for that. But yeah, that's what I've got for custom apps there. So yeah, but any questions or anything you got in the chat on that?
Yeah, amazing stuff, Michael. Maybe you did a blog on that recently about PSADT 4.1 release candidate. Maybe you can share that. That's the really good read.
Oh yeah, I could drop that in the chat. Yeah.
We also, while Michael's sharing that, we also did a deep dive on custom apps webinar not so long ago. So I'm just going to share that in the chat as well. If you haven't seen that and you really like what you saw today, definitely jump into that too. Some good info shared there. Really powerful feature. It really has enabled customers to get their own line of business apps deployed out there. We still do take suggestions for our catalog too. So definitely still post your ideas to ideas.patchmypc.com for new apps you need. Like our catalog team are aggressively adding, like, I think it's nearly 100 apps last month or something crazy. Like we're adding new apps at a rate and not. So enterprise level apps that our enterprise customers are asking for. But if you do have those bespoke line of business apps that are not available publicly, custom apps is amazing. Thanks, Michael. Really cool feature. Again, just want to be respectful of people's time here. So, Liviu, we have you up next. Talk about update rings.
Yeah, thank you. Let's have some fun. So I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm currently showing the Patch My PC Cloud portal, and we're going to talk about update rings. But before we do, I want to set the scene on why update rings were built and introduced in the cloud portal and what issue they solve. Because currently, when you're thinking about adding Win32 apps in Intune, right, you might think, I want to phase this out. I have a lot of devices. I don't want to hit every device at the same time, and I want to phase them out. So you can do that natively with Intune. And the way you can do it is by leveraging availability and deadline. That's an Intune native functionality. And a lot of people use that. And when they come to the Patch My PC Cloud portal, they expect the same functionality, right? But there is a good reason why we introduced update rings. Availability and deadlines can be problematic in certain cases. And here I have an example. I've packaged Google Chrome. I have this Win32 app. And I've configured the following groups. I have my beta group. I have it configured to install as soon as possible. We can see it here. That's the availability. And I have my pilot group. This is set to install a few days later. I think it's 15 days later. And then I have my production group, which is set to install, I'm bad at maths, 22 days later, something like that, or 20 days later. Now, what can happen is there is a bug in Intune. So for instance, if you have a device or a resource, a device or a user that's a member of all of the three groups, you would expect this particular app to install as soon as possible, right? Because it's part of the first beta group. But we can see I referenced it as soon as possible. I didn't give it a specific date. So there is a bug in Intune right now. In the Intune management extension on the client side, it doesn't interpret this correctly. So it will actually install it on that resource in the first group that has an actual date instead of as soon as possible. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It will not install as soon as possible. It will install actually as part of the second group. To resolve that, you can always edit this assignment. And instead of choosing as soon as possible, you can set it to today, for instance, and that would technically translate into a 0-day deployment, right? That's something you can do. But one other thing that can happen is, especially with automation, if you're using a product that automates these assignments and you configure a template within that, whatever product you're using, to always set assignments with 0-day and then 15 days and then 30 days. If the vendor releases a new version, let's say every 10 days, because that automation always packages the new version and always moves the assignments from n-1 to version n with the template that you set, 0, 15, 30 days, it will always reset those assignments. So if the vendor release frequency is higher than your release schedule, your phased rollout, it's never going to go to potentially to your production loop, right? Because the assignments are always going to be reset. And that's something we try to avoid with update rings, because essentially update rings, they ensure that every single version goes full circle through all of the rings you've configured in the template. And I have before we deploy something, I have a quick diagram here. It's long live Microsoft Paint. Let's assume we have an app, let's say Google Chrome, and we have version 1, right? This version 1 here. And then we have 2 update rings. Ring 1, every assignment under ring 1 should be created immediately because ring 1 has a 0-day delay. But then we have ring 2, and then the assignments under ring 2 should be created when the version 1 becomes 6 days old. So it has a 6-day delay. And this is all fun and games, right? When version 1 is packaged, the assignments under ring 1 are basically created immediately. And then it will have the assignments from ring 2 pending. But what happens if, for instance, let's say a new version of Chrome, version 2, is released in between our rings, right? 3 days later. It's going to be packaged, of course, because the vendor released a new version. And then the assignments from ring 1 are going to be moved, right? Because they have a 0 days delay, they're going to be moved to version 2. Version 1 still has a purpose, not going to be deleted from Intune, but it's not going to have any assignments. And that's fine because it has the assignments pending from ring 2. So if I delete the drawings, it will have these assignments, which should be created when it becomes 6 days old. So when that time passes, once 6 days will pass, version 1 will all of a sudden have the assignments from ring 2, just to ensure that even version 1 goes full circle through all of the rings. And of course, once version 2 will become 6 days old, it will set the assignments, it will move the assignments of ring 2 from version 1 to version 2, right? Because it's version 2's turn to go full circle through all of the rings. And when the ring 2 assignments are moved, version 1 will finally serve no purpose anymore. So unless you have retention enabled, then during the next Patch My PC Cloud Sync, version 1 will be cleaned up, right? Because we don't want you to end up with a lot of older versions. So that's how update rings work. And I have a scenario here in my cloud portal. If I look at under deployments, I have such a setup. We can see I have AWS command line interface. The vendor releases a new version, I think every 2 or 3 days. sometimes even daily. And we can see the status for this application says scheduled. And if I click on it to learn more information about this particular deployment, I click more info, I can see I have ring 1 configured right here, and it has an assignment to my IT devices. We can see the status for this equals success. It has a 0 days delay, so it was created immediately. But then we also have ring 2, which should go to all devices, and that should be created only when this deployment, after 5 days, basically. And that should be today, because the initial creation date was 24th. I paused the sync. It should be created later today, but I paused it so it wouldn't create it, so I could show you guys this as well. If I check Intune, let's quickly check what we have there. We can see exactly what I mentioned. We have 2 AWS command line interface versions. This is version N, the latest, and then we have version N-1. As I mentioned, N-1 doesn't have any assignments, and that's because the ring 1 with 0 days have been moved to the latest version. If we look at the properties of this app, we'll find that it has the IT-only assignment, the one under ring 1. We confirm that it is the case, indeed, as we specified in the ring, in the update ring. And then, of course, the N-1 is pending to have the assignments from ring 2. Now, I hope that makes sense. I hope that simplifies how update rings work, because they can be confusing at times, although they are quite powerful in how they work. Let's also quickly create an update ring together. So if I want to, let's say, deploy one password. If I go to assignments, of course, I can always create my assignments in any way, shape, or form I want, required assignments, available assignments, update only. But then we also have the option to set up update ring. So if we enable the update rings, 2 rings will be created by default. Of course, you can change the days delay as needed, and you can add additional rings as needed as well. All that's left is to specify some assignments under each ring, and they should be created under each ring. And let's say in ring 1, I want to deploy the update only, and I'm going to deploy it to my IT devices. In this list, by the way, you will find your own Entra ID groups. We just read them, and then you can choose which Entra ID groups you prefer. I'm going to set this to my IT devices, and because I'm deploying it as an update only, it will ensure that Intune will only install the update on devices that have an older version. And then in ring 2, as an example, just for today's webinar, I'm going to say it should be the update only should be deployed to all devices, but I'm going to also say I want to make it available to all users so that people have the latest version available in the company portal. So those users that don't have 1Password installed, they can go there and they can install it if needed. Now, we can also notice that we don't yet have the deploy button available, and that's because we have a final choice to make. We need to choose the update ring start time. So let's quickly discuss about this as well. We have 2 options. The first option is a delayed option, the delayed start time, and the other one is immediate. The only real impact of one of these 2 options is on the version N that we're packaging today. So if you are to choose delayed, the version N that we're packaging in Intune today is going to start following the rings based on the delay that we've configured. So it's going to be packaged with only the assignments from ring 1. And then, of course, ring 2 will have the assignment set 5 days later. And of course, future versions N+1, N+2 will also follow the same template. Now, if I want to deploy it immediate, only difference, as I mentioned, is on version N. And that means all of the assignments under all rings will all be created at the same time. This can be useful in certain situations. Let's say you have never deployed 1Password into your estate, and then your security team comes by and says, we have a critical vulnerability for 1Password. We need to patch that immediately. And that's what you want to do, but you also want to ensure that future versions will basically go through the update rings. You can configure the rings here as needed. You can set it up as immediate. And once you deploy it, the assignments from all rings will be created, but then future versions will follow the rings as according to the days delay template that you configured. So that's, in essence, the difference between delayed and immediate. I can choose delayed and I can click deploy. And now 1Password will be created, will be packaged in Intune. Now, if you work with opted rings, right? Because my setup is pretty simple. I have 2 rings with 0 and 5 days, but in a real life scenario, you're likely going to use more rings with more complicated delays. And it's difficult to foresee or forecast how it's going to work. Now, we don't have functionality in the cloud portal yet. We plan to implement something like this in the future, but we do have a script which was written by our very own Ben Whitmer. And this will help you get an opted ring forecast. It's linked under the resources in today's webinar, but basically this is how it works. There are some parameters you can adjust. So the first parameter on row 69, you can choose the opted frequency. You can estimate how often the vendor releases a new version. We can say 20 days. And then you can choose the number of days you want to forecast off, let's say 37 or 40 days. It doesn't really matter. And then you can start estimating your rings. For instance, for the ring 1, I want to set a 0-day delay, right? The assignment should be created immediately. And then for ring 2, 7 days, ring 3, 14 days. And you can add, if you are using ring 4 or ring 5, you can add the delays there as well. And then all you need to do is just press F5, run the script, and this will generate a local HTML file, which will give you exactly that information. We can see here, we have the opted frequency. We are assuming the vendor releases a new version every 20 days. And then we can see what happens. We have the rings with the delay that we pre-configured in our forecast. We can see that during the very initial day, version 1 is packaged to Intune. We can see that ring 1 assignments will be set for version 1. And then 7 days later, the assignments will be set to the assignments on the ring 2. And then finally, 14 days later, the assignments will be created for ring 3. But then if you have 20 days later, if we have a new version, version 2, we can see that ring 1 moves to version 2. That's 20 days later. And then, of course, on day 27, we have this information here. This is the day 27. It's going to start adding the assignments from ring 2. And then finally, 34 days later, we have the assignments for ring 3 for version 2. So this is something that will help you with the forecast of opted rings. If you haven't used this script, I highly encourage you to use it. It will definitely give you an understanding of when to expect a new version to be, a new ring to be promoted. Now, there is one other thing I would like to quickly mention. What happens if, let's say, there is something went wrong in between the rings, and how can we stop it? You might need to stop that. And you can. Normally, if you go to a deployment, and if you wait for this to load, normally you would have the option to pause the updates. Now, it is important to note that it is not possible to pause the updates if specific deployment status still stays scheduled. And this is on purpose, right? It's not a bug. This is on purpose. When the status still says scheduled, it just means that no version has fully gone through all of the opted rings yet. It means it's pending. And at this point, we don't allow you to pause the updates because you might pause them for 10 days, for 20 days, for 30 days. And so we don't know when you will unpause it. And by the time you'll unpause it, it's going to be difficult to predict and estimate what we should do. The vendor might have released 1 version, 2 versions, 3 new versions. So what should we do with the rings in your template? And that adds a lot more complexity. And that's the reason why we don't allow you, for now, to pause the updates for any opted rings that haven't gone full circle for at least 1 version. And if that's the case, the best option would be, at least for now, it would be to just delete the deployment. And that will also clean it up from Intune as well, the Win32 apps. And it will basically just stop it. So that's it for me today.
Awesome. Great stuff. Update rings. Very powerful. Sometimes a mystery. Liviu just demystified it. If Keeran, I think you're the last but not least. I could say probably this time.
Last but not least. So I'm going to talk to you guys about reporting. So we've had Advanced Insights and Patch Insights out now for about 18 months at Patch My PC now. So I'm going to show you through Patch Insights, and then I'll go over to Advanced Insights in a second. So this is Patch Insights. It's a cut down version of Advanced Insights. It's the same install code, but based on your license details that we got. So whether you're on Enterprise Patch or Enterprise Plus, you'll have access to Patch Insights for ConfigMgr customers. So this is a reporting interface, which is reading your ConfigMgr database, which makes it more user friendly. ConfigMgr is very dense in its data. The reports in SSRS, it's very flat text. There's no charts in there which you can use really. So we come up with the reporting interface for Advanced Insights and Patch Insights. We get a home dashboard for seeing which version of ConfigMgr you're using, how many devices you're managing. We can drill in. We can go and see what different version of the ConfigMgr client you've got in the environment as well. So we can drill in. We can see this information when this loads, and then we can see all the different devices from here. We can also drill in individually to a device, and we can go and see like a mini resource explorer of the device information. We can see what the manufacturer is, what the model is of the device. Is the device online? Has it done hardware inventory? Has it done any discovery data information? We can also go and see what updates has it got on the machine. So has the device scanned against the latest catalog from the ConfigMgr environment? When's the last time it scanned? What SCCM software update point has it scanned to? Here we can list what updates are required on the device. We can see which updates are installed on the device as well, which is quite handy to see. And then moving over here to the left, we've got our software update node, and then we can have a more granular dashboard of our software update point information as our SUP synced. If there was multiple SUPs, we'll be able to see the downstream SUPs here and have they synchronized. Have we got updates that are required for deployment? So these updates which have synchronized in ConfigMgr, but have not deployed, have no deployment data behind there. So if we click on this, we get a nice little report of different products that you'll have synchronized, but have not have any deployments behind them. So you may want to create a deployment, or you might have some old software updates products that you synchronize or you don't need anymore. So you might think you might want to get rid of them, like this ODBC driver down here. And then if I wanted to, I can drill in further. We can click into the software update data, see the metadata inside there, see which devices are present on the update, what's the content size of the update as well. And then is it a member of a software group, which it shouldn't be because it's not deployed and there's no deployment data behind it. Similar to like the ConfigMgr console, when you click on all software updates, this is the dashboard which you get presented here. So we'll be able to search for any updates in here. So let's say if we want to look for a Google Chrome update, we can go and see which Google Chrome updates are there. We can see this is the latest one that's been deployed, but it has no deployment data, no deployments behind there. So me as a ConfigMgr admin, I might need to go do some work, go and see why this is not deployed, but it's installed on some machines. So it helps me do some troubleshooting, and I can see the compliance based on my collections that I've got in this environment. So if I change this to say Windows 11, these dashboards will change. If that's a bad collection to choose. Let's try this one. And we'll get some compliance data from there. And then we can show you data for our software update groups and our deployment data as well. If you've got deployment stats there, we can see the compliance on them as well. Switching over to Advanced Insights now quickly. So I've got to go a bit quick here because it's a bit short on time. You can see now we have more dashboards here on the left-hand side. We've still got our software update store, but we have more data in here. So Advanced Insights is continuing the data which is inside Configuration Manager, but we'll extend the hardware schema and get you to deploy our inventory extensions. And there we can collect more modern OS data, such as displays. So we can see which monitors are connected to devices. So I'll pick my device here. So we'll click on this device, and where we can see I have an internal display. I have two Dell monitors connected to my display, but also I can see which is my primary screen. So if I'm in a support call scenario, I can see which is my customer, which screen are they using. They may say, oh, the cat's true for the cable. I can see which cable they're connected to through, so I can ship them a new cable straight away, which is quite handy to see. The other things that we collect is battery. So this is quite interesting. So we can see what the battery health on devices are. So based on from their full charge state to what they are right now. So we can see that this device is at 40%, 44% battery health from when it was first manufactured. Again, you can toggle on any of these dashboards to any of the data sets you wanted, or you can search for a particular computer name if you wanted to. So let's have a look for 066. So I can see if there's a device with the host name of 066, I can see that from here. The other things that we collect inventory data for, which is quite good to see, is user installed applications. So inside ConfigMgr, it doesn't collect user installed applications to date. So using the inventory extensions, we can collect the user installed apps. If I drill into this dashboard here, so I can see that we have 50 user installed applications. I could do a search. Let's have a look for OneDrive, because this is the thing I like to search for. I can see there's 252 devices with OneDrive, which is user installed apps. Drill into this and I get a report of all those devices there. But also what I can see is we've got 7 different versions on this machine. So if I click on the individual device, you'll notice now we have lots more tabs in Advanced Insights like we have, unlike Patch Insights. So we can drill in here, but also I can do another search under the display name. Let's have a look for OneDrive again. I can now see all the different versions of OneDrive that are on the machine and the usernames associated to it as well, which is really handy. If I wanted to, I can then go over to the users tab. I can have a look, see which users they got. So there's no console users, but I can click on the users profile tab here and actually run some actions against the device and hit delete, and this will delete the user profile off the machine, which is handy for you to see. Things that we have in Advanced Insights is our threat analytics dashboard. So this is where we're collecting the CVE information from NIST, Red Hat, and the Microsoft Security Resource Center. So we have the compliance data of the software updates from the devices, but we don't have CVE information. So we can pull that in and marry those data up. So it gives you a dashboard of which devices are affected by which CVEs, and we can show you the critical and the high scoring ones in a sliding scale. If I click on, say, this CVE, I can drill in here and I'll get a list of all the devices that are affected by this CVE and which updates I need to deploy to remediate this CVE as well. If I want to go and see if this update is deployed, I can drill in further. I can then go and see the metadata in there and go and see, is it a member of a software update group, or also go and see the deployment stats behind there, well, the deployment data behind there. So is it deployed to my workstations? Is it visible? Is it hidden? Am I suppressing the reboot, which is really handy. Again, at the bottom, we've also got our Patch My PC update. So if you have third-party updates synchronized and they're published in the catalog, we'll be collect the CV information and show you what vulnerability you've got from the third-party updates, which you have in your catalog today. And over here on the right-hand side, we've got our Cyber Essentials critical update compliance. So these are updates that are deployed in the last 10 to 14 days. One of the other things that we collect is warranty data. So we have warranty dashboards for Dell, Lenovo, and HP and Toshiba today. So there's a couple of API keys you need to get, and that's documented on our docs page, which is in the resource links. And then we can collect in warranty information. So if I want to see more warranty information on, say, some Lenovo devices, I can click on this. Let's sort this by computer name. Let's see if I can find one that I would recognize. Let's pick on this X1 Carbon. And if I click on the warranty tab on the individual device model, I can then go and see a little picture of the device, what is product ID, and also what warranty data is cached behind there as well. I'm looking a bit pushed for time here as well. So there is many more other functions in here, but I did promise at the beginning of the thing, we're going to show a little bit about our Intune reporting, what's going forward. We're currently in private preview. Oh, my screen's gone. Private preview for our Advanced Insights for Intune. This will live in our cloud portal. So the guys have demoed our portal earlier, but we're going to introduce a new node in here. We're going to have our Intune reporting node, which is going to do live graph calls to your Intune tenant. So you get nice little donut chats, which you'll be able to drill in and see more information. And also we're going to be introducing to go and collect more inventory data with more than what the Microsoft Graph can give you. We're going to introduce our client. So what the client is, that's going to build on the data set that we have and collect more inventory data on our Patch My PC update compliance. We're going to collect hardware inventory data, just like I showed you about battery health and external display, and fill in more sort of thing for now. And I think that's all I'm going to show today before we move over to some Q&As. If there's any questions that we need to answer, I'm quite happy to answer the reporting questions. I know I went through pretty quickly.
It's great stuff, Keeran. You teased us at the end there. I can't wait to see this reporting for Intune. It's amazing. I think DJam, you're on. I think you maybe want to say something as well in the webinar. Do you still want to say something?
Yeah, a couple things. One of the common questions or themes that was in chat was around migration. And we have migration from ConfigMgr to Intune. If any of you need that, that is in private preview. And if you'd like to get in that, easiest way to do it is from Publisher. You can turn it on, and it has basically a migration application analyze feature that helps us analyze which of your apps you have that we can migrate. And based on those numbers, we can invite you to private preview. The other question that was asked about that was, is there an easy way to move from Publisher to PatchMyPC Cloud? There isn't an easy way yet. It is pretty easy manually, and that question was answered multiple times in chat and in the questions. But we also are working on a way that programmatically we can move your apps from Publisher to Cloud. It's actually built on the exact same technology we've built for ConfigMgr to Intune application migration. So just watch kind of our news. You'll see that's coming soon too. That's all I got, I think, Ben.
Awesome. Amazing. There's so much cool stuff in the pipeline, but I just want to scream it all out now, but in its time. Just quickly as well on the stuff Keeran was talking about. If you're using Enterprise Patch and Enterprise Plus, we still see customers who are not leveraging Patch Insights, and it's such great value, that reporting element. So if you're not using it, go and look at our docs page to understand how to enable it, docs.patchmypc.com. We've got advanced insights to show you how to install it. It's very simple, or just reach out to support if you need some help with that as well. Again, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I just want to say thank you to all of our presenters. Amazing. Like, the customer engineering team is superb. The knowledge that they have is amazing, supporting our customers. The knowledge they have of our supporting platforms like ConfigMgr and Intune and our products. It's just a joy to work with them and just see all this come to a head. So thanks, everybody.
Join over 8,000 organizations that trust PatchMyPC to keep 25 million devices up to date. It's secure, automatic, and built to scale. See for yourself. Click the link to book a live demo with a PatchMyPC engineer now.